up? Yes, I'm late. Of course, I'm late. I am black and I am Haitian, so fashionably late is what we do. Even the men. Yes, of course. You're only punctual when it like absolutely necessitates it. Um, I'm sorry, y'all. What's going on, everybody? Let's do our intros. Like, share, subscribe, hit that super chat. Shout out to Mr. Nobody for the cash app on the previous stream. I did not get to see it earlier. So once again, shout out to Mr. Nobody. I wanted to start this stream off by laughing my ass off by Alba saying, "This is a sickness." He sounded like my dad. Oh, man, my dad sounds like my dad. That was it was so funny because like my dad would say the exact same thing to this. He would. I'm gonna. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna show him this, and he's gonna laugh. He's gonna say, "This is a sickness. See, this is a sickness." I don't understand where these women are coming from. Oh man, that's hysterical. And on that point, once again, right? Yes, it is a sickness. And Abba was getting at something, right? So was Preach when he said, 100 is a nice round number, and he was saying, these people don't understand, and they're not only in their late teens, they're in their early 20s also. I would argue, those women that were being interviewed. And yeah, and yes, Abba was correct. This is like media, right? Abba and me are similar age. I think I'm older than Abba by a few years, even though he spent much of his adolescence in Canada. From my understanding, he moved from East Africa at a young age and grew up in Canada. And so yeah, so Alba witnessed a lot of what I witnessed, maybe a little bit different. The Canadians are just maybe a little bit nicer, a little bit more nuanced, not as capitalistic. But yes, this is a sickness, and these women, to Abba and Preacher's point, but definitely Abba's point, that you have 30-something-year-old women sounding like this. I know, I was in the dating scene a couple years ago. He is absolutely right. They are whimsically naive and delusional, like comically naive and delusional, even into their 30s, 40s, 50s, right? He is 100% correctamundo. Absolutely delusional, right? And you're supposed to make a wife out of these people. These are the people that are calling you immature. These are the people that are saying that you're a sexist monster and you're misogynistic and you think every woman's a gold digger, right? I even watched a clip on Comedy Hype. They interviewed one of the sisters, heavyset sister comedian. I forgot her name, and they were talking about, rest in peace, Kevin, and she was like, it's not that we're gold diggers and and it's not this, and I know a lot of women that are boss women, and they, and I'm just, I worry about my career, and that's why I don't really have to be like she was saying, she don't have to be held hostage by these type of notions. And meanwhile, her younger sister and her own sister and of her same age think like this. What I love is that men are seeing the hypocrisy between when women like her talk and when you put a microphone in their face, and some of the younger women that don't realize what they're saying. Because women like this person, and I can't remember the comedian sister name, Jesus Christ. For those of you that know who I'm talking about, and I see the super chat, I'm gonna read it in a minute. Give me a second when I get a chance to stop. But yeah, I forgot some of y'all might have seen it. I should have linked it in the comments too. Damn it, man. I mean in the description. And I'm sorry about that. I'll link it in the description after the video so y'all can see what I'm speaking about. But it's Comedy Hype. I don't even know how old the video is, but it's a sister. I forgot her name, and they end up talking about Kevin, and she's essentially like, it's not that we're trying to outcompete y'all and all this other stuff, and then you hear women like this. And yes, it's pretty much all white women, but like if you're a black man, sisters think like this. It's frightening actually. But I'm rambling on, and I'm saying all of this stuff to say they clearly don't understand money, and this goes way beyond college years. This goes way beyond college years. As a person that sits smack dab in the middle of their 30s, this goes way beyond college years. They're delusional, I would argue, until death, really. And the few of them that get snapped out or smacked out of that delusion are so angry that you woke them up. They're Cypher off of the Matrix. They would much rather have been delusional about men. They're angry when they realize, wait, men only make on average some $40,000 a year in America? I mean, not average, sorry, median for $40,000 a year in America? I told y'all, and now I could say it because I said her name before now on my channel. I was on Selkis Ray channel in her comments when I put that down one day, and I blew the comment section up because those women were like, I'm not gonna deal with that, I can't deal with that. All right then. You have understand what we're saying. We're in an institution of higher education, of higher learning, right? This lady is interviewing young women in college, and they're so delusional. By the way, this is speaking to everything I've been saying for the past week or so about Richard Reeves, about Scott Galloway, about even maybe a week before that, or a couple weeks before that, when I was talking about the Black Authority. I'm sorry about that, I had a brain fart. Yeah, all of this stuff I've been saying for the past couple weeks, maybe. All of this speaks to that. You can't alpha your way through this delusion. You have to be a provider at the absolute highest level to outcompete this delusion. And these women will not, air quotes, settle. And by the way, that's their prerogative. I've said it before on my channel. I'm not a woman. I don't know what it feels like to be the physically weaker sex. I don't know what it's like to walk around the world at 5'4", 5'5", could barely lift 100 pounds. I don't know what that life is like. I don't know what it's like to be a woman filled with, or a girl filled with all that estrogen, and you watch Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and Real Housewives of whatever, and all these princess movies growing up, and then that's stuck in your mind, and now you're in your early 20s, early 30s, early 40s, and you're still like, no matter how much money you make, I need a man to still make more than me, and at worst the same amount as me, and I'll be grinding my teeth if he does. I'll be angry if he does, but I'll maybe settle for that, right? I don't know what that's like. So it's not, I can't tell a woman what her biological imperative should be. What I can say is this supercharged biological imperative, oh yeah, this is not going to end well for the masses of women. That is why Morgan Stanley is saying, and excuse my background, that is why Morgan Stanley is saying by 2030, 45% of these women will be single, which you guys have been hearing me say for, what, 3 or so years now? On different people's channel and now my own channel, right? These women are not coming back down to reality. Nappy-headed Hoba, T Noir, right? Julesy, Khadijah, FD Signifier. These women are not coming back to reality. So we could stop chastising our boys and our men about what they're not doing and how immature they are and how sexist they are and how misogynistic they are and how they're all in their echo chambers and they hate women and they're INCELS, right? Nah, your daughters are out here showing you what it really is. And the ones that are not so coy don't even know how to hide it behind some pretty language and some euphemisms. Right? Once again, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. The ones that are not smart don't even know how to hide it. Even the college educated ones that are not, we got to sound a little bit softer. We got to make it seem like we don't look at men as walking wallets. See, all that language about objectifying the opposite sex that we've been hearing, especially for those of us that are millennials and younger Xers, we've been hearing that our entire lives. Oh, you objectify women and men objectify women and men objectify women. And it's gotten, worse and worse as time progressed coming out of the 80s, right? It's become a fever pitch now. And now you're hearing your daughters objectifying men. And by the way, they've always been doing this. This is like as old as human history. But, right, you're hearing your daughters, you put a camera in front of their face, white, black, Asian, Latina, it don't matter. right? Educated or not, they sound like this when you ask them about men. And notice, and what I loved when the woman was like, when the interviewer asked, because you see you yourself with a man that makes $30,000 a year, and she was like, yeah, and she was like, as a relationship, as a partner, and she was like, oh, right, and that goes back to what Dr. Chantel Bugs said in a video I did about dating racism. That goes back to what she said about the disjunction between what these women, and I'm gonna say it in my own way, these women virtue signaling and what they really actually like and what they're attracted to. So because we live in this kumbaya, we are the world, and women have been raised not to be offensive, which is, that tends to be a more feminine trait anyway, so, good on them for that. But then they virtue signal about what they're willing to accept, or what, because they don't want to come off offensive, right? You don't want to sound like you make a man a walking wallet, right? You don't want to sound like that about other people's boyfriends, about other people's spouses. But then when we ask you straight up, would you be down for that? That's a different question, isn't it? Right? That's like saying you're okay with LGBTQ, and I ask you, what about if your son came home and told you he was LGBTQ, and you're like, whoa, that's a different question, Mr. Z. Right? Train tracks. My apologies. Right? So this is where we are with that. All of these women were coming out the mouth, $100,000, $500,000, millies. Right? And yeah, they're right. It sounds, they're looking at men as like something to show off. Well, my man makes 100. Well, my man makes 150. Well, my man makes $250,000. Right? So it's not just men walking around saying, well, my girlfriend has a, double D's, and my girlfriend has a waist like this, and she has, a shape like that. And no, it's the women turning the men, commodifying the men, and turning them into walking wallets and something to brag about. You are a Benz, or a Camry, or a Corolla, right? Nobody want to hear that, right? So I'm not necessarily mad at these women. Like I said, I'm not a woman. I do not know what it's like to walk around the world and be considered the physically weaker sex, and to walk around the world. I'm not a big dude myself, but I don't know what it's like to walk around the world with the whole other opposite sex essentially being bigger and stronger than you and faster than you, right? Okay, let's look it up. Victor Frost, thank you, bro, for the super chat. He says, paying tuition, I really enjoy your content, puts a lot into perspective. Appreciate it. Thank you, brother. Thank you very, very much. We got Meech in here, right? Meech says her name is Yaminika Saunders. Thank you. I think that's the comedian sister that you're telling me about. Yes, I think that's her, right? And I've seen her on other things, right? And she pretty much seems to, yeah, and yep, McDonnie says, Mr. Donnie. I'm sorry, Donnie. I don't know why I'd be calling you McDonnie, and you never corrected me, so thank you very much. So, but Donnie says the lowest number was 80, and it was, yeah. No, I think she said 60. I think the interviewer said, like, would you be willing to sell with 60? And she was like, yeah, right? So, like, yeah. So let's say it was 60, but still, that's still more than, like, most men make. Even white men. I love that. What did Mr. Z come in the door telling y'all? The internet is going to expose us all. Better yet, we're going to expose ourselves on the internet. Right? And like, rest in peace once again, Kevin. And I could tie, I'm going to actually, I don't want to give him no views. I'll tell y'all about it. And y'all could go look it up yourselves. But when Vlad interviewed Boosie recently, right? And I know I did not watch the video myself. I watched another person reviewing the video. But Boosie said himself, like, those women don't want to hear Nothing about no damn Kevin Samuels, and they get irate when you mention him. And you also saw that when Ti and Tiny were talking about Kevin. And I remember having this conversation with a very, very, very close friend of mine, one of my best friends actually, and his wife. And this was when Kevin was still alive. And the way she interpreted it is the way that we all think that black women interpret it, which is like he's defecating on women, specifically black women. And I said, um, and we'll just call her N. And I was like, N, you know, these women aren't looking for love. She was like, oh, they're just looking for love. And that was my door in. And I was like, no, they're looking for a lifestyle. They're looking for a lifestyle. And that's what y'all, like, I don't know if women associate providing a lifestyle with love. That's a different conversation we can have. And if that's the case, then I can see why you say that. But no, understand that's what's attracting them to Kevin's channel is that high value man moniker. That's six-figure moniker. That's why they're going. They're not just looking for love. They're looking for a particular lifestyle, and they're looking for a man to provide that lifestyle. And what Kevin is showing on his channel is them then defecating all of these women across the educational spectrum, across race, across class, all around the nation, quite frankly, all around the Western world, defecating on working class men in comparison. It's not that you're just saying, this is what I would like. Like, we all, for those of us petrol heads, we all have a car that we would love to have. But if you have to, truck it through with a Ford Taurus or a Camry, you'll do it, right? And you have an aspirational vehicle, but that doesn't mean you defecate on everything else. What these women are doing is literally saying it's that man or nothing. That type of man, this archetype of a man that me and other women like me have made up. We don't know or care how many of these men exist. We don't know or care how many of these men exist in my own city. How many of these men are married already, right? What these particular men like. And that was a lot of the pushback on Kevin's show, right? Is that, okay, Kevin was like, okay, these men exist. They're in rare number. What do you come to the table with that would make him choose you over the next chick? And that's when it usually disintegrated. Because the answer is nothing. Or the answer is I come with these set of skills, right? And I need him to accept me for these set of skills I have. And that's where Kevin comes in and is like, no, these men are looking for cheese pizza. You're offering everything but cheese pizza. You're offering paper, you're offering burgers, you're offering tacos, you're offering tires, you're offering planets, but they want cheese pizza. Right? So tying that back to the Boosie interview. Boosie, rich, famous rapper, right? Even when he mentions Kevin, the women in his circle lose their crap, right? They lose their crap, which speaks to what Mr. Z is saying. And y'all, give me a second. I'm not gonna lose my train of thought. Give me 1 second, y'all. I am back. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I don't know who it was, but somebody in one of my previous videos said it's not a Mr. Z video if it's not like a 20-minute break and he's not saying train tracks, and I died. It's true. Look, man, I gotta cross many train tracks to get back and forth to work and home. It's true. Look, it's true. right? It's true. Oh man, look, Mr. Z don't be denying the obvious, right? I've never been that guy. I know when I'm got. But yeah, so you know, tying that back to the Boosie interview, as I was saying, Boosie, rich famous rapper, even women around him, you know, they get irate when Kevin is mentioned, and I'm tying that to the high value thing. I'm tying that to the 6-figure thing. I'm tying that to the Abba and Preach video by saying like we need to stop pretending like this is not your daughters also were raised. Millennial and Gen Z women were also raised in this neoliberal order, right? They are the children of Reagan and Clinton, right? All of your kids post 1977, 1978, all of them are neoliberal, raised in the neoliberal order, better yet, in the shadow of neoliberalism, which means they put a market valuation on everything. That includes, and most particularly, your women doing that. Your daughters who are now grown women doing that. Right? And so when we talk about objectification and we only boil down to physicality, we do ourselves a grave disservice in the understanding of how these things work, right? And how the neoliberal order would work on the way women think about men, right? We're doing ourselves a disservice in this conversation when we do that. And what videos like this will continue to expose is all of that chastising our sons in a vacuum is doing nothing. As what, I forgot her name, Liz Marie Ann or something like that. We gotta reimagine. If okay, for argument's sake, we want something egalitarian. Okay, cool, whatever, right? That the Black Manosphere don't really agree because we already know what that's going to turn out to be. And you would argue, you can make a real argument that that's what's being said in the Black community. That's why we don't believe it, because we know that that's what's being said in the Black community and it's not actually working. It's really a gynocracy, but it's a gynocracy that the men are still supposed to produce and provide and protect, but they just don't get to have no type of leadership role, right? Until, of course, things hit the fan, then you're supposed to take over and, you know, become Rambo, right? So, let's say, okay, this is really supposed to be some type of egalitarian experiment. Well, apparently your daughters did not get the memo. They didn't get the memo. Your daughter said, yeah, that sounds nice. And whenever I'm interviewed about this, I will always give the PC answer. But in my own real life, when it comes to me and what turns me on, yeah, I don't believe in any of that. But I'm not going to say that in polite company, though. Right? I'm not going to say that in polite company because it's going to come off, you know, like I see men as nothing but walking wallets. Well, because you do see men as nothing but walking wallets. And so many of you have been exposed in that, right? This was, and once again, like I started off saying, Abba did that was funny as hell. It was fantastic. This is a sickness. Let me say it in a Haitian accent, although, you know, Abba wasn't using it in a Haitian accent. He was using it more in an East African accent. This is a sickness. This is a sickness, Z. This is a sickness. This is a sickness. And your daughters are willing to die on this hill. So when they say settle, understand they're not talking about being, and this is going right back to my video from this morning. Miss Adrienne Lawrence, right? These are your daughters for real, Miss Adrienne Lawrence. This is why men are single, Miss Adrienne Lawrence. Cut the crap. You're a whole JD out here. This is why your sons are single, because your daughters think like this. And Miss Adrienne is not old like that. She's in her mid-30s or something, early 30s, right? But these are your younger sister and these are your younger cousins, Miss Adrienne. Mr. John, because John is a white man. So these are your sisters, John. So when these women say, I'm not settling and these men are immature, that's crap. What their real issue is that these men don't make enough and they can't buy me the lifestyle I want. Regardless of whether I can provide it for myself. I want to emphasize that. Regardless of these women can provide it for themselves, they still want a man that can provide them the lifestyle at the highest level. And so when they say they're not settling, what they mean is they're not settling for working class, everyday 9-to-5 men. And women like Adrian and men like John refuse to accept that and the social ramifications that come from that. Period. And that's why you see Mr. Z keep on harping on this. This is my lane right here. When we talk about relationships and economics and everybody starts chastising the men, because so all of a sudden we get into character assassination and the character flaw and how immature the men are and they don't want to take showers and wipe their rear end and they want to stay home and jack off and play video games. Yeah, because your daughters sound like this. Because your nieces sound like this. Because your granddaughters sound like this. Because your sisters sound like this. And none of you ever sit her down and be like, this is a sickness, right? None of you sit her down and say, yo, you sound crazy like this. I'm not saying it's going to be impossible to find a man, but you stay on that road. What Mr. Z tell y'all, you better get your boxing gloves and boxing shoes ready because you're going to be fighting for that top 20% man, regardless of race. The competition gets stiff once you get in that top fifth, right? Really top quarter, but that top fifth, oh. And then half of these women say they're not going to compete, especially the black ones. This is where black women get their heads taken off because white women, Latina women, and Asian women are all saying they're not going to compete, but the white, Latina, and Asian women don't actually mean it. The black women mean it. That's where black women get their head taken off. They think their non-black sister actually mean they're not going to compete. All right. Think that if you want to. Think they're being serious. Meanwhile, the productive black men, all those Latina women that said that, and all of you women that said you're not settling for a working class black man, guess what? The Latina women and some of the working class white women are snatching all those dudes. So when you realize you're not going to get the highest or the high white or Latino or Asian man or definitely not black man, guess what? When you come back down, all the working class men, they bought up. That's happening to black women now. We're not even talking about 10 years from now. That's happening to black women now. All the working class black men y'all turned y'all noses up at 10 and 15 years ago, them white and Latina women came for them. The white and Asian women are taking the men off the top, white, black, or otherwise. And then closer down to the ground, the white and Latina women are taking them from the, closer to the bottom. So it's the Asian and whites on top and the white and the Latina closer to the bottom. And black women are none the wiser because they're telling you they're not going to compete. Right? Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. They're telling you they're not going to compete. You don't have to. Mr. Z is about, you know what? You don't, that I'm not a woman. I am a heterosexual man. Right? You don't have to. But then deal with the consequences of listening to people like this, going to these type of universities and colleges and institutions of higher learning, listening to these white girls. And when these white girls start working and they realize what it really is and they busting their butt doing 32, 40, 45, 50, maybe 60 plus hours a week. A handful of them are doing more than 45 hours a week. A handful, but still, okay. Right? And they only they walking out of college with their bachelor's degree making some 30, 35, 40 grand and they get hit with reality. And they're like, oh man, I got to go couple up with a man. But black women still tough it through. Man, I don't need no man. Do bad all by myself. Yeah, okay. Until them bones start aching. Until those raises don't look good enough anymore. Until that biological clock is ringing off the hook. And this is not scare tactics. I want to be very clear to any woman listening. These are not scare tactics, but your angry, bitter, swirlers, divestors, black women in luxury, swirler, divester, adjacent content creators, all on social media, especially your black ones, will not tell you this. Your Real Talk with Yannis are not going to tell you this. They're not. Your Selkis Rays will not tell you this. They're just going to tell you to kind of accept yourself being pretty much single for eternity. Right? Get comfortable with being an ugly girl. Because that's her moniker, right? And just be happy with you. And I agree with her. Be happy with you. She's actually right about that. She is right about that. Right? But nobody's telling women to stop being delusional. And all that Disney stuff was crap, especially black women. Nobody's telling black women that. No one. Right? And the consequences of that on their own lives in the long run. Right? And so the women find themselves in the worst positions, you know, as they get older. Because nobody told them. No one sold them. And definitely all your hyper capitalists were chomping on the bit and salivating, considering all these girls that become women that they turned into hyper consumers and materialistic a-holes who now judge men off of the standards that these rich white elite men, usually racist elite men, put on the table. And so a part of me feels no remorse for these women when they end up miserable in their late 20s plus. No one in your circle told you to think about these any kind of different, and now you got to deal with the consequences of being stubborn when you hit reality. Right? Give me a second, you guys. Let me pause right here for a second. Give me 1 second. I'll be with y'all. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. Yes, I am back. I am back. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I don't know. But like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat if you're enjoying this. But yeah, so now we're in this situation. And what was interesting is, like Abba and Preach kept on getting back to, they just don't know money. And like Abba said, but it's scary when you get into your 30s and 30-something-year-old women are sounding like this. And I've been around 30-something-year-old women, clearly, who sound like this. They are delusional. It does not change as they get older. In air quotes, mature, right? It does not change. So I'm putting this out here for future generations. The reason why so many of your aunts were single and y'all got that stable auntie that calls herself the rich auntie. She's really not rich. She's she just don't have any kids or a man or any type of real expenses. So it makes it look like she's rich with her $70,000 a year if she makes that, or her 80 grand a year, right? She paid off her student loan, so now she's living aight. But the reason why many of your aunts will not couple, or they, you know, every once in a while you see them with a man, but that man only lasts a year or so, maybe 9 months, 6 months, right? It's because many of them think like this. So for all you future generations, you younger Gen Z, when y'all come up on this video, whenever you alphas, when eventually if you ever come up on this video, understand why so many of your aunties, or why your own mother was single so long in your life. They think like this about men. That's for the white, the black, some of the Latinas, and the Asians. They think like this about men. Men are nothing but a walking wallet and overglorified guard dog. Before we even get to character and personality. Right? Before we even get to any of that. So yes, we can say, you know, this sample size was horrible because these are young, college-educated women. They don't really understand. They're not really in the workforce like that. They don't get it. I promise you, you could stand in front of any supermarket across America and you're going to get similar answers. You're going to get similar answers. It may not go all the way to 500 and 300,000, but it's still going to be hovering around that 100, 150, $250,000. I put money on it. I'm willing to bet someone in reality for this. You can stand in front of just about any supermarket, any retail store in America and get pretty much the same type of answers from 30-something-year-old and 40-something-year-old women who've been in the workforce for 20 years plus. This is not going to change because we refuse to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Y'all raise y'all daughters to be materialistic, hyper-capitalist a-holes. Your daughters have a neoliberal lens at which they view the world through, or from which they view the world through, right? Yeah, Mr. Donnie Mac says, this is no different than the 9-to-5 scammer or drug dealer interviews a while back. Exactly. We let rich, and this is why, like I said, this is my lane right here. I keep on sticking to this point over and over again. I came in the door on this. We let rich, white, elite, Milton Friedman men, greed is good, Gordon Gekko type men, all into writing studios and be executives and movie producers all across Hollywood, all across America. No wonder 30 and 40 something years later, your daughters sound like this about men. Because the people that set the bar were these type of men. And so they want to see themselves reflected in this. So working class men are whimsically dumb, right? Never really present even when they're present. They're immature, right? They don't really understand what's going on in their own families. And then the higher up the ladder you get the shrewd businessman, but he's a great provider and his children learn to love him even if he wasn't present also, because that money done made up for all of it. Right? So essentially I'm saying you let Donald Trump be the person defining how your children were to see love in relationships and intimacy. Right? So we took a pretty natural state of affairs when it comes to no romance without finance. That's somewhat understandable. You know, like men throughout the ages have been somewhat willing to accept that. And we supercharged it with neoliberal capitalism coming out of the late 70s. And to answer Abba's point about where this kind of mantra is coming from, well, that's where it's coming from. Years of Cribs, years of Real Housewives of wherever the hell. Years now of social media content creators and these entertainers showing them their lavish lifestyles, which just shrink the world in these women's minds. Years of that and decades of that at this point has so distorted women's view. And then on top of that, you still have the patriarchal notion of men being providers and protectors. that we claim that we're trying to combat, but not really. And we get here. Right? Now we're here now. And all y'all got, going to Miss Adrian and John, all y'all got is chastising your sons, your brothers, your guy cousins. That's all y'all got. Your nephews. That's all y'all got. Ain't nobody saying anything about the women in their delusional ass worldview. We don't have no talk for them. None. You know, maybe you might want to stop seeing men as walking wallets. It's not a good look. You know, like 0.5% of men fit into that $300,000 a year and up mark. Or 2% of men, or some, you know, 3% of men, something infinitesimally small, practically sample negligible, excuse me. Want to make sure y'all know I could pronounce the word. Right? On a side note, the other day I couldn't get the word authoritarian out. That's the word. I couldn't get it out to save my life. I was on the phone with a friend and I was it took me like 5 minutes. And I've used the word before, but for some reason, if that friend comes on, he subscribed to my channel, he was laughing because I couldn't get the word authoritarian out. Right? To save my life. Right? Yeah, Victor Creed. Victor Creed says one of those women wanted a man making 500K. You see what I'm saying? And like, yes, we can, some of this we can chalk off to, you know, these are young women. They don't really understand. I agree. I actually do agree with that. We can chalk off a lot of this to these are young women and they're just going off of pop culture type of references to money and stuff. They don't really get it. That's actually true. But that hovering around that $100,000 a year mark, nah, they mean that. They mean it. Right? And anything less than that is settling. We need to actually see this chart kind of differently. It's not the closer you get to 100, the better. I think and you know, I'm not a woman, but what it's seeming like for me as a straight man looking at women is that the further away you get from 100 coming down is the less of a man the man is. Right? So 100 is like the standard point. The higher up from that you go, the better of a man he is. But the lower from that you go, the less of a man he is. That's what it's seeming like to me. Crack Dracula, thank you very much. Adrian is 38, has 2 master's degrees and a JD. And you see? And yet, Miss Adrian, you don't understand why these men are seeing. You think it's because they're immature and they want to keep their thumb on women and they want to go back to being oppressive and, you know, they want to go back to the days when women needed them because women would literally starve. Nah, your white sister over here, who you kind of know because I like I said, I done seen your IG page. Your white sister over here, that's the reason why all these men are single as hell. Because they think like this about men, nothing but walking wallets. And women like you don't got no type of talk for those women. Nothing. You're not used to saying anything to those women. You're just used to chastising the men and the boys. Because you only look at the world through a white feminist lens. Your degree and your accolades be damned. Clearly. Because I've watched her. When it comes to race stuff, you know, she standard issue black woman. But once we start talking about relationships and intimacy, oh, you see how that went out the window. Right? So, once again, shout out to Abra and Preach. A shout out to Abra in particular for that. This is a sickness. This is a sickness. It's so true. It's so true. And no one has anything to say about that. No, all of mainstream media, look, man, Mr. Z lives on the internet, yo, on YouTube. And now that I put my email address in the description for those of you that ever want to send me something or y'all would like for me to cover something. Now my email's in my description. People send me stuff. I'm even more plugged in than I was before, and I was pretty damn plugged in before, right? Across the board, even internationally, I'm watching stuff, right? So we got to stop pretending like your daughters don't sound like this, your nieces don't sound like this, Miss Adrian and Mr. John. I'm all over mainstream media, even some of this kind of what's this kind of offshoot of I'm so sorry, mainstream neoliberal media, these kind of TYTs and stuff. Even they're not really covering how insane these women sound. From 18 to death. Right? Quack, exactly. Quack Dracula, exactly. I saw what you saw, bro. I saw what you saw. And I came to the similar conclusion that you probably did. Right? We just gonna keep on beating up on the men. The problem is that y'all won't step up, and the problem No, you, like I said, just eat the box. Right? Just eat the box. Fine. Men and vast majority are not on your level. Fine, just eat the box. Go fight. Oh, go share the top 20% man or the top third man for those of you that are willing to settle for that. And the rest of you, I guess, go eat the box. Go enter some same-sex relationship. There you go. And some of you are going to have to share the top third of men. Okay, cool. I'm a top third of man. I don't know how my girl would feel about that, though. Right? I'm going to continue to stress this as long as I have this channel. Until y'all have a real good faith, real conversation with your daughters. Your millennial daughters are practically gone. They out of here. They're done. They're done. Right? Your younger extra daughters, they're done. They're done. Maybe even some of your older Gen Z daughters, they're gone. They're gone. And when I say that, I'm speaking about America, right? Like, this is a big family. We understand. Hey, Mr. Z is saying this like this for a reason. That's why I say daughters and sons the way I do. Right? For those of you that didn't peep, I'm pretty sure most of you did. I'm speaking about America as a family before we get into race or class or anything. Right? But some of your younger Gen Z daughters, definitely your alpha daughters, and subsequent generations, they could be salvaged by the way they're going to have to be socialized to think about men and relationships. I'm saying this, if the project truly is to bring some type of supposed equilibrium and to live up to what these particular lefties are saying they want, but clearly 40% of women earn more than their male counterparts, and look how it's just destabilized everything. Once again, not the men. You raised the men to have an egalitarian worldview. The reason why you're getting a backlash. Let me be very blatant and clear to Adrian and John. The problem is your men are coming out here in the dating world and they're realizing that you lefties lied to them. They're coming out in the dating world and they're realizing the women don't actually mean that crap. They're virtue signaling when they say, yeah, I'm okay with a man being on my financial level. Maybe even he makes a little bit less than me. I'm okay with that. They don't actually mean it. That's the backlash. It's not that men want to send women back to the kitchen per se. It's that these men are coming out here, the ones of them that are actually getting dates, and realizing that your daughters are full of crap. They're virtue signaling that they're okay with this supposed egalitarian situation we're trying to promote all over the West. And when these boys and these young men are dating these girls and these women, they're realizing, oh crap, that's a lie. Even if I'm okay, she has contempt for my friends that are not, you know, of this income bracket, of this tax bracket. Even if I clear it, the rest of my friends don't. We need to stop pretending like your sons are not having these experiences with your daughters, and all y'all ever do is chastise the boys and the men. Meanwhile, you could set up that camera on any college campus in America and you will get the same type of results. Like I said, you could set up that camera anywhere in front of any retail store or grocery store in America, and you will be running into 20-something, 30-something, 40-something-year-old women, and they will sound very similar to these 18, 19, 21, 22, maybe 23-year-old young women that were being interviewed on that video. Right? Y'all go ahead, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. So until we're willing to have an honest conversation about the hypocrisy in your daughters and in some of you, sorry, excuse me, my apologies, most of you, this is going to continue. And yeah, your daughters are going to pretend like they're happy. They're going to, I'll just focus on my career. These women are, look, Mr. Z knows. The rest of you know. Because y'all girlfriends are slipping up and telling y'all, y'all wives are slipping up and telling y'all, y'all homegirls are slipping up and telling y'all. A lot of these girls that think that's pretending like they got it all together, they straight and with being single, they traveling around the world, they're on day trips, they're doing what what's it called, day spas and all that other stuff, day parties. Many of those women are going to sleep at night with their toy and ice cream in their hand, crying. Someone tell me I'm lying. Many of these women in their 30s, in their 40s are going to sleep with tears in their eyes. And I'm not saying that to make fun of them. I'm saying that to say y'all others, you Johns and Adrians, y'all lied to them. You Derek Jacksons, y'all lied to them. Even some of you FD signifiers, y'all lied to these women. Y'all lied to them. Y'all ego stroke them. Y'all placate them incessantly. Now they're on a high they can't come down from with their air quotes standards, and they're crying themselves to sleep at night. Now when they come out of that house or apartment, it's not, I'm good. I'm not worried about these bum men. I'm not worried about, I need a man on my level. Yeah, that sounds nice. Put a camera in her bedroom at night. I'm not trying to make fun of these women. Some of these women are they're my family. Some of these women are your family. They're your friends. They're my friends. They're people we grew up with. They're people we actually care about. But they consumed all of this content all through the 80s and 90s and early aughts, and now you can't get them off of it. Really hard to have a nation when you can't have a family because your women are delusional as hell. And they're setting the entry point at 80 plus, 90 plus, 100 plus thousand. When the vast majority of your male population just don't earn that. And when we say you're a vast majority, we're not saying a vast majority as in 51, 55%. We're saying closer to like 70% of your male population just don't earn that. And even for you women that end up marrying that upper 20%, right, that top fifth, have fun defending and mate guarding. Have fun defending and mate guarding against that 23-year-old, 24-year-old with the tight body. Have fun. Have fun mate guarding. Y'all are not thinking about this on the macro level. Clearly. This is one of the costs of hyper individuality. of being myopic, of being solipsistic. Y'all are not thinking about this on the macro level. Y'all not thinking about this money thing on the macro level. You're not thinking about your air quotes standards on the macro level. You're not thinking about none of that. And so, deal and suffer with the consequences. Once again, I got to bring out the line. Niggas get shot every day, B. You'll be all right. This is a sickness. Shout out to Abba and Preach. It truly is. It truly is. Right? So thank y'all for listening in. Put a like up on the way out. For the replay squad, hit the thank you button. For all the women that are listening in, I'm not making fun of y'all. This is not about making fun of you. Or ha ha ha, getting my 5 chuckles in, my man dark laugh, right? Ha 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 ha. No, it's not about that. It is to say, be careful of who you listening to and what you're regurgitating in that media. From social media to mainstream media. These content creators, even some of these and this is why I keep on bringing up Adrian. Around my age, accomplished, and you still don't know what the entire hell. It feels so weird telling someone who's more academically accomplished than you that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. It does feel weird because I respect, I was raised to respect those who really stuck it in there and who, burned the midnight oil and who turned in those papers on time and who especially if they went to a prestigious institution, especially black people that did that. Yes, even black women. I was raised to respect those people, especially for someone like me who's a community college dropout. But it's hard to do that sometimes when you put a microphone in their face, they sound like Adrian when it comes to man and women relations. It's really difficult to do that because they really don't know what the hell they're talking about. But it does feel weird telling them they don't know what they're talking about. It does feel weird saying it. And in any other endeavor, she would take my head off because she would know more than me. But on this, nope. Even in sports, Mr. Z is not a sports head. I don't know nothing about basketball or football, soccer, any of it. Baseball, nope, don't know nothing. And if she worked for ESPN, yeah, she would take my head off clean. Anything about law or take my head off clean. Now she's in news. She knows the current events going on around the world. Good. Right? But when it comes to this man-woman thing, nah, you don't got nothing on me over here. When it comes to this, oh no. And that's why some of you scholars, y'all on Twitter, y'all on YouTube, y'all on Instagram, and y'all getting y'all heads taken off by high school dropouts when it comes to certain things. With certain topics, y'all are getting y'all heads cleaved off because you don't actually know enough about that particular subject matter. Right? Shout out to you, AB. So I'll truly pause right here. Y'all go ahead and like, share, subscribe, right? AB, catch the replay. Yeah. And this is unfortunate. And shout out to Abba and Preach. This is a sickness. It really is. And like Abba said, you did media. And why they all going around this 100, 150,000? Why is this the thing? And like Preach said, yes, it's a nice number, $100, $100,000. It's a nice round number. It's a beautiful number. It's the next level, right? And Abba was right. The difference in our minds between $9.99 and $10, right? That kind of illusion, almost like an optical illusion for your mind. Yeah. Preach was absolutely right about all of that he was saying. Yes. But then the other part is these women want to show off their men like men or cars. That part too. And these women have a neoliberal lens at which they view the world through. That part too. And they've commodified men in masculinity. That part too. That's also why these women are sounding like this. Yes, from 18 on up in college years all the way to death. But definitely between that 45, 50 to about 18, we're talking about adults now. Yeah. They were raised in this neoliberal world order. So yes, it didn't just affect the boys and the men, TYT. The women also. You want to know why that birth rate fell through the floor? Why that marriage rate is falling through the floor? And the people that are getting and staying married are that top 20%. And the reason, what's the number one reason for divorce again in America? Oh yeah, money. Huh. And who files for like 70, 80% of divorces in America? Oh yeah, women. Sorry, TYT, that's just the part. That's the part of the game y'all really don't want to cover. Y'all don't really want to go there with the conversation, right? So continue to go in on the INCELSs, right? Or CELS, right? Air quotes. You're punching down, right? And I'll truly pause right there. Y'all have a good rest of y'all night. Thank you once again to the brother Victor Frost for the super chat. Let's read his super chat one more time. Paying tuition, I really enjoy your content. Puts a lot into perspective. Appreciate it. Thank you once again very much, brother. And I am outie. Y'all have a good rest of y'all night. I will pause right there. Mr. Z out. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of y'all night.